Duxcheer is my little tagline. I'll be honest with you, I don't normally do public speaking, so this can either be a rare treat or painful punishment. So I did do a little bit of practice.
Oh, good.
I don't know if it's any good, but anyway. So I'm going to start with how I got into the arts. So like everybody else, they've got a different story. So got to the end of high school, and the career advisor ushers you into that little back room and they give you that big fat career book. Now, hands up who had no idea what they wanted to do in high school.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so you got to sit there and you got to select what you're going to do for the rest of your life. In the arts in those days, there was maybe 2 options. We had a graphic designer and an in-betweener. Now, I know one person knows what in-betweener is. It's in the animation industry, but it's like drawing cartoons all day, and I was a teenager and I thought, I don't want to do that. Teenagers don't do that. So I went and did graphic design. While I was doing graphic design, I did detailed portraits, just for that extra bit of cash to, support the starving student or whatever. And then I also spent a bit of time in the bookshops, like this, the little discount bookshops, and that's where I found 2 of my most influential artists. Was the Big I Am by Ralph Steadman. Has anyone seen that? These like crazy ink works with lots of splats and really wild kind of, so that's what I use that for. And then there was another one called Mary McQueen, and she had a little book of pencil illustrations, and she used to draw animals with the simplest pencil strokes. And it was kind of then that I realised that you don't need all that detail to put mood and emotion and all those kind of things into your artwork. And at uni it was also where I did my first ink works, but even though I still did artwork, I never actually took on doing any ink works till quite a while later. All right, so I've got my Bachelor of Arts in Graphic Design, and you get to Sydney, and what's the first job that I got in the art industry after doing my graphic design course?
Receptionist.
An in-betweener. I had done a complete circle. I didn't matter what I chose, I ended up where I needed to be.
Yeah, awesome.
And I worked for Walt Disney, same as Serena here. She's a lovely illustrator as well.
Nice.
And I drew for them for about 6 years, I think it was.
Wow.
And because it was kind of a production-like thing, like churning out drawings every day, I got to draw really quickly.
Yep.
And I also got a strong stroke in my drawing.
Yep.
I think for Snake Monster. And those are 2 things that are paramount in the style that I do at the moment. It's also why they all got a little bit of a cartoon to them because of that Disney residue. Yeah. And so much so that when I was doing my wildlife series, took quite a while before they stopped looking like something out of Lion King. quite a bit of Disney you guys. But yes. So I at the beginning of each year, I think of new themes to get started to try and keep the ideas rolling, because in the last 7 years I've done over 1,000 illustrations. And so you start to wane in the ideas. So I do themes like I've done the vintage in there, a little bit of farm, coastal themes. I even experiment with a bit of colour, which you'll see in the artworks on the books and things like that, bags. So I experiment each time just to keep the momentum going. One other theme that seems to be pretty prevalent in my work is connections. So it's connections within the artwork between the animals and the humans, and the humans and the humans, and that kind of thing. And so I suppose a lot of you have got pets at home, that are eager and excited and things like that. So you know what I mean by the connecting with the animals. I was raised, my early years, I was born in Sydney, but I spent my early years in an outback town called Hay, where Tracy comes from as well. To give you an idea of how far out it was, its tagline is Hay, Hell and Booligal. Hay, Hell and Booligal. But it wasn't that bad, because I was raised on a hobby farm. So we had just about every animal you could possibly think of, including a lot of wildlife, because my mum was the drop-in centre for the abandoned kangaroos and wallabies, and emus, baby emus, and all those kind of things, which was great. Even a baby fox too, actually, which was quite interesting. But I remember a story, and my dad got called into town, and there in the middle of the town was this fully grown emu. It was ink. We had eeny, meeny, miny, and we'd release them back into the wild. And this was about a year later. And you're standing in the middle of the town railroad, and the connection that my dad still had with it, he was able to pick up the fully grown emu and put it in the back of the Land Cruiser.
Wow.
Not a trailer, not
Wow,
a truck or
that's
anything like that.
amazing.
And then we were just in the back seat eyeballing it from So I learnt that connection at an early age, and I started drawing animals from early age, so that's why I do
Fantastic.
things today.
Oh.
Did you bring any specimens with you?
For a hobby as kids, we used to go across the railway line picking up bones and see what we could actually design with them.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't an artist at all. But this one taught me about art and appreciation for it.
Oh, fantastic.
It was a lot of fun.
And speaking of bones, it probably makes you, some of you may have noticed that I have no faces on most of my artworks. So it's a little bit of a horror story kind of thing, but it's not real. And especially for someone who kind of started with, portraits, so I know how to do a face. But if I put a face on there, that artwork is trapped in that time, in that mood, in that motion, and
Very
it's that
good.
person.
Yeah.
When I leave the faces off, people have a stronger connection between whoever's looking at it. Because it triggers their emotions too, when I first had my first child or first puppy dog or went to the beach or things like that. So it becomes like a conduit to their memories.
Really good. Yeah.
Just like when you smell something and it reminds you of time and a place. A little bit weird, but it's not that gory because I kind of obscure it with the hair and
It means we can all relate to it.
yeah,
very
it
good,
builds a stronger connection.
Yeah, nice.
And this is like the Chaplin one where
Oh, yes, the Charlie
Chaplin
Chaplin.
is unique to that person.
Yeah, that's right. That makes
Really
it
good,
challenging.
really good.
So even with commissions, I don't put the faces on, but I'll put things in there like their pets, their style of hair, their clothes, that kind of thing. So that if a stranger comes into the house, they probably won't recognise them, but people who are close to you will
We know,
recognise it
yeah.
and who, so that they know. It's a bit of a in-house, not joke, but in-house connection.
Yeah, nice.
Just to build that more personality.
That's great.
These other two elements I have is the ink, the swishing of the ink. That's just to keep movement within the image, so it's not looking like it's standing still kind of thing. Puts a bit of mood and emotion and that kind of thing. And apparently it's always very windy in my place. And the last element is my little fairy wrens. Usually I have a little fairy in there. It's just my little signature mark, just hiding in there somewhere. I do occasionally forget them, but yeah.
Did you say you use ink?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
ink. So it's the old school dipping pen. So you dip the ink in the pot and do it like that.
A quill.
Yeah, like a
Like a
yeah,
quill?
like a quilt without the feather thing. Just
Yeah,
the
yeah.
normal calligraphy kind of thing. Yeah.
Perfect.
Though I have done that. I've
Yeah.
made some. I made some with our turkey feathers. They're quite nice.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Right next to the turkey bone.
That's great.
And we are delighted that you're here.
Yes.
Your art is here. Every month, some of you know, we are here on the first Saturday night of the month. And a new artist, but it's not just the first, it's just the food is only here. And the wine is only here on that night. The rest of the month, Danielle's work is going to be up and you can come back, you can BYO friend, bring your own friend, or come back and see it yourself.
Enemy.
Oh, enemy.
Bring
It's like
anyone.
Bring your own
bring your
enemy, sure.
animals.
I don't mind that. We'll just videotape it. And then, of course, everything's for sale.